Silence is power because it is the space where energy gathers, awareness sharpens, and truth reveals itself. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes a rare form of strength. Most people speak to be seen, to be validated, to fill the emptiness they fear inside. But silence does not seek attention, it commands it. When you learn to be comfortable in stillness, you begin to master not only your words but also your emotions, your reactions, and your inner world. The one who controls silence controls presence, and the one who controls presence controls influence. Silence is not weakness, it is preparation. It is the calm before the storm, the pause before the move that changes everything. In silence, energy that is scattered by constant talking and seeking attention is gathered back into focus. You begin to see more clearly, think more deeply, and act more precisely. The silence that others mistake for passivity is actually power being refined. It is the same silence that a warrior holds before a battle, the stillness that a monk carries within even in chaos, the calm that a wise person maintains while others panic. Shi Heng Yi often teaches that awareness is the root of power and silence is the path to awareness. When you stop speaking, your senses awaken. You start hearing what others miss. The tone behind words, the emotions beneath actions, the truth between the lines. Silence turns you into an observer rather than a reactor, and that shift changes everything. Instead of being pulled by emotions or external noise, you start moving with intention. Every action becomes deliberate, every decision infused with clarity. Silence also protects your energy. The more you speak unnecessarily, the more you leak the power you have cultivated. Words are energy, and when they are used carelessly, they scatter focus. The silent person, on the other hand, stores energy like a mountain holding its strength. They speak only when their words carry purpose. This makes their presence magnetic, their voice impactful, and their actions meaningful. In silence, you begin to see that most battles are not fought outside but within. You confront your own fears, doubts, and insecurities. You start realizing that peace is not found by controlling the world, but by mastering your response to it. Silence becomes a teacher that reveals the noise within your own mind. When you stay long enough in that quiet, you discover that behind the chaos of thoughts lies an unshakable stillness, a power that cannot be disturbed by circumstance. So, silence is not emptiness, it is full of awareness, strength, and potential. It is the source from which true confidence flows because it does not depend on approval or applause. When you move from silence, your actions carry the weight of inner stability. You no longer chase validation, you create impact. The loudest sound in the universe is not a shout. It is the quiet force of someone who has mastered silence and learned to let their results speak for them. Actions over words is a principle that separates dreamers from doers, talkers from achievers, and those who seek attention from those who build legacy. Words are easy, they flow freely and create illusions of progress. Anyone can speak of discipline, success, and change, but only a few have the consistency to act on them. Real power lies not in promises but in proof. What you say may impress for a moment, but what you do defines you forever. The difference between wishing and becoming is action. When you live by actions over words, you understand that every step matters more than every speech. Talking about goals can create temporary satisfaction, but it also drains the energy that could be used to manifest them. The mind begins to believe it has already achieved something simply by expressing it. That's why true masters, like Shi Heng Yi, emphasize doing the work quietly. Every small act of discipline compounds into strength, while unnecessary words scatter energy. Progress is not measured by how much you talk about your plans, but by how much you move toward them every day. Action is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. Dreams, visions, and ideas are powerful, but they remain abstract until they are expressed through movement. A painter can imagine a masterpiece endlessly, but it becomes real only when the brush touches the canvas. The same applies to life. No amount of talking replaces doing. Action turns intention into evidence. It gives life to thoughts and meaning to goals. Without it, even the greatest ideas fade into nothingness. People who act rather than speak understand patience. They know that success does not need to be broadcasted, it needs to be built. They spend their time refining their craft, not explaining their plans. Every moment spent proving something to others is a moment stolen from the process of becoming better. When you act, you grow. When you talk, you often delay growth. The quiet worker in the background eventually outshines those who constantly announce their ambitions. Actions also reveal truth. Words can deceive, but behavior never lies. You can tell the world you're focused, but your habits will show if you truly are. You can speak of humility, but the way you treat others will prove it. You can talk about your dreams, but only persistence will make them real. The universe does not respond to words. It responds to effort, intention, and consistency. Over time, actions create a reputation that no speech can maintain. People begin to trust what you do more than what you say. You no longer need to defend or explain yourself. Your work becomes your voice. This is the essence of quiet strength. True success doesn't need to announce its arrival. It simply appears, and the results speak louder than any promise ever could. So stop talking about the mountain you plan to climb. Start climbing. Because in the end, actions are the language the world truly understands. Discipline in the dark is what defines the difference between those who wish for greatness and those who achieve it. It is the unseen work, the quiet repetition, and the lonely hours that build true mastery. When the lights are off and no one is watching, discipline is tested. It is easy to stay motivated when people are cheering for you, but the real test begins when you stand alone with your goals and your doubts. That is where character is forged. Shi Heng Yi teaches that true strength is not built in moments of glory, but in moments of solitude, where you choose to keep going even when no one will notice. Discipline in the dark means showing up when there is no applause. It means practicing the same routine, refining the same skill, repeating the same movement until it becomes part of who you are. The mind will resist, whispering that no one cares, that rest is deserved, that tomorrow is a better time. But those who rise above that voice and continue to work in silence become unstoppable. They understand that every small effort accumulates. Every quiet hour spent improving adds a layer of strength, precision, and confidence that others cannot see but will one day feel. The dark is not a punishment, it is preparation. It strips away distractions and forces you to rely only on yourself. In that darkness, there is no validation, no recognition, only truth. You face your weaknesses directly without escape. You learn what discipline really means, doing what is necessary, not what is easy. It is a form of self-respect. When you honor your word to yourself, even in private, you build integrity. And integrity is power that no external praise can give. Discipline in the dark also teaches patience. The results may not come quickly. You might question whether the effort is worth it. But growth is slow, like the seed buried in the soil. You don't see what's happening beneath the surface. Yet roots are forming, strength is building, and the foundation for success is being laid. When the moment of light finally arrives, those who trained in the dark will shine effortlessly because their preparation was pure. The dark is where transformation begins. It is where the body strengthens, the mind sharpens, and the spirit hardens. Those who skip this phase remain fragile, easily broken by failure or doubt. But those who embrace it learn to depend on discipline, not emotion. They no longer need motivation to act. They act because it has become who they are. So when you find yourself working in silence, away from attention, remember this: the dark is not your enemy. It is your training ground. It is where you earn the right to succeed. And when the world finally sees you, it will not understand how you became so strong, so focused, so composed. That is the power of discipline in the dark, the unseen strength that makes every victory inevitable. Ego creates noise because it constantly seeks attention, validation, and control. It is the restless voice inside that wants to prove something to the world, to be seen, admired, and recognized. The ego thrives on noise because silence threatens its existence. In silence, there is no audience, no applause, no mirror to reflect its importance. That is why many people cannot stand stillness. It exposes how fragile their identity truly is. Shi Heng Yi often reminds us that peace begins when we stop identifying with the voice that constantly says, I. When the ego speaks, it divides, it compares, competes, and judges. It makes you chase illusions of worth rather than experience true presence. The ego's noise drowns out awareness. It fills the mind with endless thoughts about reputation, image, and status. You begin to measure your value by external standards. How people see you, what they say about you, what you possess. The more you feed the ego, the louder the noise becomes. It creates anxiety, insecurity, and the constant need to prove yourself. You lose connection with your inner stillness because you are too busy defending an identity that is never satisfied. Ego makes you forget who you truly are by keeping you busy with who you are trying to be. When the ego is in control, even silence becomes uncomfortable. The moment there is nothing to do or prove, the mind starts producing noise to fill the void. That noise might sound like doubt, comparison, or pride, but it all comes from the same source, a fear of being nothing. Yet it is only by embracing that nothingness that real peace and power emerge. When you stop needing to prove your value, you begin to embody it. When you stop talking about strength, you start living it. Ego creates distance not only within yourself but also between you and others. It makes you view life as a competition instead of a connection. You start to see others as threats to your importance, not as reflections of your shared humanity. The ego feeds on comparison because it needs to feel superior to survive. But the truth is, greatness does not require comparison, it simply exists. The silent mind sees no opponent, no hierarchy, no need to defend or dominate. It moves with calm confidence, not noisy pride. To quiet the noise of ego, one must return to awareness. When you observe your thoughts instead of reacting to them, you start seeing how the ego operates, how it creates tension, fear, and drama. The more you watch, the weaker it becomes. Awareness dissolves ego the way sunlight dissolves mist. What remains is peace, authenticity, and presence. The absence of ego is not weakness, it is freedom. When the noise fades, you begin to act with clarity, kindness, and purpose. You no longer move to impress others, but to express your truth. The quiet mind becomes powerful because it is no longer divided. It doesn't seek attention, it commands it. In the end, the loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. True strength is silent because it comes from within, untouched by ego and free from noise. Focus on the craft means dedicating yourself completely to the process rather than being distracted by recognition, approval, or competition. It is the art of committing to mastery for its own sake. When you focus on the craft, you stop chasing the outcome and begin building the foundation that leads to true excellence. Most people want success, but few want to disappear into the quiet repetition that mastery requires. The craft demands patience, humility, and discipline. It doesn't reward noise or ego, it rewards consistency and presence. Shi Heng Yi teaches that attention is sacred. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. And if your energy is scattered across too many desires, your work loses depth and meaning. To focus on the craft is to fall in love with the process of improvement. It means being willing to fail 1,000 times without losing the desire to try again. It's not about instant results, but about becoming one with your practice. The sculptor spends years shaping stone, the monk spends decades mastering stillness, the athlete repeats the same movement daily until it becomes effortless. True mastery hides behind ordinary repetition done with extraordinary attention. Every small action, every minor correction builds precision. Over time, that focus creates something unshakable, skill that no one can take away. When you focus only on results, your attention becomes external. You begin comparing, competing, and worrying about how you are seen. But when you focus on the craft, your attention turns inward. You stop seeking validation and start refining your inner world. You work not to impress, but to express your highest potential. The craft becomes a mirror that reflects your state of mind. If your mind is restless, your work will show it. If your mind is calm and clear, your work will carry depth. The process of refining your craft is also the process of refining yourself. Distractions are the biggest threat to mastery. In today's world, attention is constantly pulled toward noise, social media, opinions, achievements of others. But focusing on the craft means building a sacred space where your energy cannot be disturbed. It means creating quietly, without needing to show every step. The most powerful work often happens in silence, away from attention. When you return to the craft daily, you strengthen both your skill and your spirit. It teaches patience, humility, and endurance, qualities that cannot be learned from shortcuts or praise. Over time, your results will speak for you. People may call it talent, but you will know it came from thousands of unseen hours of devotion. The craft will shape you into someone who no longer depends on motivation, because practice itself becomes your peace. You begin to enjoy the work for what it is, not for what it brings. That is true mastery, when the journey becomes the reward. Focus on the craft and success will not be something you chase. It will be something that follows naturally, drawn to the quiet power of your consistency and love for what you do. Results are the voice because they speak the truth that words cannot hide. Anyone can talk about goals, dreams, or potential, but results reveal the reality of effort, discipline, and persistence. Words can deceive, but outcomes are honest. They are the reflection of your consistency, not your promises. Shi Heng Yi often teaches that the universe does not respond to what you say, it responds to what you do repeatedly. In a world where people are quick to announce every intention, results have become rare and powerful. They do not need to shout, they simply exist, undeniable and silent, yet louder than any speech. When you let your results speak, you step away from the need for validation. You no longer chase approval because your actions already express who you are. The satisfaction of quiet progress is deeper than the temporary praise of others. Every result is a conversation between your dedication and your destiny. It says, I did the work. You may not have spoken about it, you may not have been noticed while doing it, but the outcome becomes proof of your truth. Real achievement doesn't require explanation. It commands respect through evidence. Results also reveal character. They show whether you acted from commitment or from convenience. When you keep showing up even when it's hard, the outcome carries that strength within it. Results are not just numbers, trophies, or visible success. They are the energy of everything you invested, the patience, the failures, the quiet nights of work no one saw. Every result tells a story of unseen effort. That is why those who work in silence are never surprised by their success. They already earned it long before the world noticed. When you rely on results as your voice, you learn to trust the process more than the praise. You understand that consistency matters more than attention. You stop wasting energy trying to convince others of your worth, because your achievements make that statement for you. People may doubt your words, but they cannot deny your results. The more you produce, the less you need to explain. The quieter your journey, the louder your success becomes. Results also inspire others in a way words cannot. When people see your growth, your transformation, or your mastery, it awakens belief in them. They realize what is possible through effort, not talk. Your results become a silent teacher, showing that action builds credibility and integrity. While others try to impress with speeches, you lead by example. In the end, results are not just about proving others wrong. They are about proving yourself right. They remind you that effort is never wasted, and that persistence always leaves a mark. So stop announcing your plans and start working on them. Stop explaining your vision and start building it. Let your actions accumulate until they form a voice so strong it cannot be ignored. Because when you move in silence and let your results speak, the world will listen without you saying a word. Presence over performance means choosing authenticity over appearance, awareness over approval, and truth over display. In a world obsessed with looking successful, presence brings you back to simply being real. Performance seeks to impress. Presence seeks to connect. Performance tries to control how others see you. Presence allows your genuine energy to speak for itself. Shi Heng Yi teaches that when you are truly present, you no longer need to perform because your actions arise from clarity, not insecurity. Presence is effortless power. It doesn't chase attention, yet it naturally attracts it. Performance is often driven by the ego. It depends on external validation and constantly fears judgment. It creates anxiety because you are always trying to prove something instead of simply expressing what is true in the moment. Presence, on the other hand, is rooted in awareness. When you are present, you are not lost in thoughts of the past or worries about the future. You are fully alive in the now. Every word, movement, and decision becomes intentional. You listen deeply, act calmly, and respond wisely. Presence brings peace while performance brings pressure. When you live through performance, your energy is divided. You are thinking about how you look rather than what you are doing. You may appear confident on the outside, but feel disconnected on the inside. That disconnection weakens your impact. People may sense that something about you is forced, but when you operate from presence, your energy aligns. You move with authenticity. You no longer need to exaggerate or pretend. You simply are, and that simplicity is magnetic. Presence also allows you to perform better without trying. When your mind is quiet and focused, your natural abilities emerge effortlessly. This is what athletes call the flow state and what monks call mindfulness. It is the space where thought disappears and pure action takes over. You are not thinking about performing. You are simply being what the moment requires. Ironically, the best performances arise when you stop performing and start being present. Choosing presence over performance is an act of freedom. It frees you from the exhausting cycle of pretending. You begin to value authenticity more than image, growth more than praise. You realize that you don't have to prove your worth to anyone. Your being itself is enough. In presence, there is humility and confidence at once. You are aware of your strengths, but you no longer need to display them. You are aware of your flaws, but you no longer hide them. Presence makes you real, and realness is powerful. The world may reward performance temporarily, but presence leaves a lasting impact. People forget what you said or did, but they remember how your energy made them feel. So stop trying to perform your life. Live it. Don't act confident, be aware. Don't pretend to be peaceful, be still. Presence doesn't seek the spotlight, it becomes the light. When you master presence, you no longer chase respect or success, both start moving quietly toward you.